Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my third podcast on Fascination, health psychology. In this podcast, I would like to show you how to overcome depression. First of all, it is important to note that there are three major forces in human psychology. There are thoughts, behavior, and emotions. Every kind of thought which you might have is represented in your brain as a neural network. Every kind of emotion which you have, pleasant emotions or negative emotions, also presented in your brain as a neural network. And also each kind of behavior which you might show is represented in your brain as a neural network. What is now important to note is that negative thoughts are synaptically also connected with negative emotions, and both also connected with negative behavior, whereas positive thoughts are connected with positive emotions and both also with positive behavior. Now, if a person has depressive emotions, feeling sad and unmotivated, we cannot directly change the emotions, but we can change emotions indirectly by either changing thoughts or changing behavior. Let me give an example. In the last podcast, I told you about a depressive patient of mine who was working in a bank. And one day he was invited to a birthday party, and he is using automatically typical depressive thoughts. He has thoughts like he is not good enough, he is a boring person, he is not interesting. If the other people would know more about him, then they would use this information against him and laugh about him. So other people are dangerous. Now, if he has this kind of thoughts, what do you think, which emotions would he have? He would feel sad, anxiety, and if he has these thoughts and these feelings, how would he behave? Either he would call and excuse and not go to the party at all, or if he would go there, then he would stay in the background, he would avoid social contact, he would not trigger discussion, and even if somebody would start a discussion with him, he would use communication killers so that he would not be involved in longer communication. And then this negative behavior would lead to negative reaction from the people surrounding him, and this negative reaction would completely confirm the negative thoughts which he had the whole time. And therefore here you see the psychological basis of self-fulfilling prophecy. Now the question is, how could he get out of this vicious circle? One strategy would be to change the negative thoughts into positive thoughts. And one important thing is that you should know or you should differentiate between thoughts and facts. Not every thought is a fact. Let me give an example. Imagine a person is working in a company, and this person passes a copy machine. And on the copy machine there are two colleagues, and these colleagues are laughing. Now you might think that these two colleagues are laughing on you. Now you should differentiate between what you saw and what you assume, and to know not every thought is a fact. And even if you automatically think that they are laughing on you, you should thought A fact, or B only a thought. And then you could take a piece of paper and write also alternative thoughts. So if you should write down, I think that they are laughing on me. But what are alternative thoughts? alternative interpretation. It could be, for example, that they are laughing because something wrong went during copying their papers, or somebody is telling a joke, or one of them is telling something funny which happened during the weekend. So there are many possible interpretations while they are laughing, and the assumption they are laughing on you is only a thought, it's not reality. So therefore, not every thought is a reality. I give another example. A child, let's say 5 years old, is supposed to sleep for the first time in his bed in his room. So the light is closed, and on his chair there is his pyjama, and then this pyjama in the darkness looks for him like a monster. Now again, he had the thought, this is a monster, and now he should differentiate, is it A, a fact, or B, only a thought? If it is a fact, then really he should turn on the light and run to his parents. But if it is only a thought, then he should push this thought away from him instead of going deeper into this thought and imagining how this monster jumps to my neck and bites me. And a lot of people do exactly that. They do not differentiate between thought and facts and assume that their thoughts are facts, which is wrong, and even go deeper into this imagination. Now, let's come back again to my example. So, I had a female patient who told me she passes by a copy machine and two colleagues are laughing, and she assumes or she thinks that they are laughing on her. So if she has this thought, they are laughing on me, what do you think, which emotions will she have? She will feel sad and angry on her and on the others. And if she has this thoughts and these feelings, what do you think will be her behavior? The resulting behavior would be she would avoid them. She will not be gentle to them. She would be very suspicious toward them. And this behavior would lead to negative reaction from these two. And then the negative reaction would beautifully confirm the negative thoughts which she had from the beginning. And again, she gets self-fulfilling prophecy. So, the first step would be to realize not every thought is a fact, and then to change dysfunctional thoughts into functional thoughts. So imagine she has the thought that these two colleagues are laughing because somebody's had a joke or something funny happened during the weekend. So alternatively would be she goes there and she laughs with them and said, "Oh, I heard you laugh so beautifully. Could you join me in what just happened?" This would be one possible scenario. Concerning our patient, who I said who is working in a bank, so he's invited to a party, to a birthday party, and even before going there, he thinks he's a boring person, he's not interesting enough. If people would know more about him, they would use it against him. If he has this thought, what will be his emotions? His emotion would be he is afraid, he is sad. An alternative thought would be, for example, to say, I'm interested in learning new persons. I am happy, or how lovely it is that I was invited to this birthday party. So if you say the sentence, I'm interested in learning new persons, what would be the emotion? Emotion would be curiosity, pleasant emotions. And what would be then the resulting behavior? The resulting behavior would be the person would initiate discussion, would go to them. And also we would train in role plays how exactly could he behave. For example, he could introduce himself and then ask, from where do you know the guy who has today's birthday? I could say, I know him since 3 months. He's a very fine colleague. He's very helpful. And from where do you know him? Another recommendation is, once you talk on a topic, don't jump quickly from one topic to another, but instead go deeper into the topic, and then after getting deep enough, then you can change the topic. So for example, if you ask this person, what do you like to do, or what did you do in your last weekend? And the person says, for example, I like salsa dancing. Instead of jumping to another topic, what do you like else? Stick first to this first topic and go deeper. So you can, for example, ask, since when? Oh, this is interesting. Since when do you dance salsa? Where did you learn it? How did you learn it? You could express your interest in this, your appreciation. You say, oh, how wonderful. So you have a mix between curious questions and positive comments. And then once he asks you, then again you should go into deeper and not jump from one topic to another. So you would avoid this small talk thinking leading to nowhere. Another strategy would be to change negative behavior into positive behavior. And behavior is not only what you say, but also your body language and your mimic. So, there was a famous experiment where subjects were asked to see a funny movie, and one group of the subject had a pen between their teeth, like that. The other group saw the same movie and the pen was between the lips, like that. And then they were asked, how funny did you perceive this movie? And then the results show, intriguingly, that the group who had the pen between the teeth found the movie much more funny, because when they put the pen between the teeth, they perceive their face as smiling. And your mimic is reflected to your sensory cortex by a feedback loop, and then your brain perceives your face as smiling, and therefore you feel more pleasure, and you perceive the movie as much more funny. Whereas when you put the pen between your lips, then you have a feedback loop to your sensory cortex, and the brain perceives your face as more frowny, and therefore you feel also the movie as not so funny actually. So the mimic plays a big role also in your emotions. So changing negative mimic into positive one, changing negative mimic to positive one also will change your emotion. Another change of behavior is your body language. You could try this following exercise, which I'm now showing for you. Put your heads down and your hand, and then say the sentence, today is a wonderful day. And perceive the emotion which you have in this position when you say, today is a wonderful day. And then put your head above and open your hand and say, today is an awful day. And again, perceive your emotion in this situation. And the intriguing thing is, although in this position I am saying a positive sentence, I don't feel positive because of my body language. And your body language or your body position is perceived in your brain by a feedback loop in the sensory cortex, and because you have this body language, also you feel also in a bad mood. But once you change your body language from a negative one to a positive one, although you are saying a negative sentence, it feels funny and you feel good, you feel pleasure because your body language is positive. So again, if you change negative body language into positive body language, this again will change your emotions. Here is a training, an exercise which we call Lifeline, and this was done with a Syrian refugee. And as you see, he is born 1980, and his lifeline increases, he goes to school, he has good marks, he has a vocational education as an engineer, and then at the climax of his career, he draws himself as wearing a suit and having a Samsonite bag in his hand. And then his lifeline starts decreasing. War starts in Syria. He draws dead people. And he was also imprisoned for a while. And the worst situation in his biography, you see here below. Can you recognize what this circle is supposed to be? This is supposed to be the boats which they took to go over the Mediterranean Ocean. And lots of people had, in this worst situation, developed post-traumatic stress disorder, seeing people dying in front of them. Some parents saw even their children dying in front of their eyes, and they were not able to rescue them. And then his lifeline starts to increase again, and then he is drawing smiling faces. Can you assume what he means by that? He means when he entered Germany, the first time he sees smiling faces, Germans helping him and supporting him. Some gave them roses, some gave them lunch packages, some gave children teddy bears and toys. And this first impression of Germans really increased again his lifeline. Now, a lot of refugees had painful experiences. It might be they experienced insult, maybe even torture in the country they came from. So the point is, if once you, in the moment where you had this torture or this insult or this fight, in this moment the sympathicus nervous system is activated and your body is prepared to fight or to flight. Now the problem is, if you are ruminating, thinking of the problem, this again will activate again the sympathicus nervous system, and if this happens chronically, then everybody has an organ with which you will react in a pathological way. Some people develop heart problems, some stomach pain, headache, shoulder pain, muscle pain, problem with the skin. So the point is that already thinking of problems which happened in the past or could happen in future activates exactly the sympathicus nervous system as you have been in the problem in reality. So therefore, you should not ruminate a lot about problems, but instead you should do the following. Take a sheet of paper and write the title, My Current Problems, and then write down the problems which you currently have. Now, what is the difference between ruminating about problems and writing them down? There is a crucial difference. If you only think about problems, then you will never think a problem to the end. You will contemplate a little bit about problem 1, then a little bit 2, then 3, then jump again 2, then jump again 1. And then it would feel like unlimited number of problems, like a big mountain, a big burden on your shoulders which you cannot bear. And then you are at risk in developing depression or burnout syndrome. Instead, you should write down the problems, and then once you write them down, then you realize you have not unlimited numbers, but a limited number of problems. Let's say 4, 5, 6, or whatever. And then you make a line below that, and then write the next title, Solution Strategies. Solution Strategies. This will help you in finding systematical solutions for your problems. What also you should note is that there are 4 kinds of problems, 4 categories of problem. Category number 1 is a problem that you can solve. The only thing is what you need is you should fix a special appointment when you plan to realize this idea. Let me give an example. The depressive patient who I had, who was working in the bank, he wrote also down this list, and one of the problems was that he's complaining that in his wall there is a decay. His wall is decayed. Now, what is a solution strategy? He said he could go to a shop and buy a bucket of white color and then paint the wall. Then I ask him, when do you plan to do that? He could say, I will do that at the weekend. Now the point is, lots of people have ideas, but these ideas are never transformed into reality. They keep as ideas. So in order to transform an idea into reality, you should fix a specific day and time when you plan to transform it from an idea to behavior, to reality. Because if he only says, I will do that at Saturday or at the weekend, then at the weekend he wakes up, he has breakfast, he watches television, he washes his clothes, washes his dishes. Then he postpones and postpones and postpones and postpones to buy this bucket that the weekend will pass away, and he never did it. So therefore, the solution is, before weekend, he should decide which day and specific time would he go and do that. So he said on Saturday at 12 o'clock he will buy the bucket, and on Sunday at 11 o'clock he will paint the wall. Next time when I saw him, the problem was solved within 3 hours. 1 hour he bought the bucket on Saturday, and in 2 hours he painted the wall. Intriguingly, he was complaining about this problem for 6 months. So you see here, you could waste weeks and months, maybe even years, in complaining, whereas if you just do like that and try to solve it, you could solve it maybe in hours or in days. But sometimes it is more comfortable to complain instead of trying to solve it. And what is really important, which you should very carefully note, is it is important to make a specific appointment. One trap would be, for example, you have a decision to buy this bucket a Saturday at 12 o'clock. Now it is Saturday, it is 12 o'clock, and now if you start contemplating, am I in the right mood to do so? If you start thinking in this way, then you will never transform ideas into reality. Don't wait for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment actually never comes. So before, you should decide when you would like to do that, and then do that without contemplating a lot, am I in the right mood or not? So if you have the idea, oh, I should now wear my clothes and go, it is so complicated, it is cold outside, instead change this negative thought into a positive one. Yes, I want to do it now. I would like to do it now. And once you change this negative thought to a positive one, then you will feel the energy again to do so. Also, for example, you have to do your homework, and then you say, oh, doing my homework, I would prefer to watch television, I would prefer to watch YouTube. Instead, you say, I really would like to do this now, and it is really easy, it's not so complicated. So change negative thoughts which paralyzes you into positive ones. So category number 1 is a problem which you can solve. And the only thing which you should do is write a specific time and day. Category number 2 is a problem which you cannot solve, but somebody can help you in solving it. For example, if one of your problem is how can you help your family to come to Germany? How can they come here? So this is then actually a problem where you would need a lawyer. So therefore you would write down, I will on Tuesday at 3 o'clock call a lawyer and make an appointment. Or for example, you have a psychological problem, then you should consult a psychotherapist. Or you have a problem with your car, then you should consult an expert in car engineering. Again here, you write down your solution strategy, who can help you, and at which day and time do you want to consult this person. So this is category number 2. Category number 3 is a problem you cannot solve it yourself, nor somebody can help you in solving it, but it is only about accompanying a person. It's not about finding a solution, but only accompanying this person. Let me give you an example. A patient of mine was pregnant, and then this pregnancy was lost, and then the people surrounding her start to give her several advice how she can get pregnant quickly again. And this advice is annoying because this is not category number 1 or number 2, this is category number 3. You are not supposed to find a solution for her, but the only thing which are supposed to is only being there, accompanying this person, hearing the person, having empathy with her, maybe hugging her, just accompanying her, but not to find a solution and give annoying advices. So you should note there's also this category number 3, where you are not supposed to find a solution, but just to accompany this person. So this category also exists. And once you are convinced this is category number 3, this again will save energy, because you will not start to ruminate how to solve the problem, because this is not category number 1 or 2. Let me give another example. Imagine you have a brother and his wife, or you have an uncle and his wife died. Now, what some people try to do is they try very quickly to find for him another wife whom he can marry quickly, or giving him advices how he can find another woman. So again, these advices are annoying. This is not category number 1 or 2. He has a right to be sad, and you should not try to quickly find another wife for him, but hearing him, understanding his problem, having empathy, just being there and accompanying this person. Let me give you a last example. A colleague of mine, her father has Alzheimer's disease, and she sees her father once a week, and every time she is quarreling with her father because she is trying to change him. She cannot change him, and neither she can take Alzheimer away from him, and he has also somehow a right-wing way of thinking, and she cannot change him. So instead of trying to change him, instead try to find topics where she can have with him positive communication and avoid the topics bringing quarrel, and avoiding giving him advices how to change him, because these advice are annoying. Instead, just accompanying him, having empathy, and joining him in the last years he is still living. And there's also finally category number 4, whereas neither you can solve the problem, nor somebody can help you solving the problem, and you cannot even accompany this person. For example, if you have in your country family members and you don't even know if they live or not. So if it is category number 4, then the only thing which you can do if you are religious, to pray for this person and to wish all the best for this person. Same thing is also if you are thinking of somebody who already died. Again, this is category number 4, praying for this person, wishing all the best. So you should write down the problems and then decide this is category number 1, 2, 3, or 4. And if it is category number 1 or 2, fix a specific date and time when you want to address this issue. In order to do this strategy in a proper way, you need time management. And time management is something which is very efficient here in Germany. And I don't know anybody who is successful in professional life without time management. And therefore, I recommend also for you to develop your time management strategies. So what you need is a booklet, a calendar, a time schedule where you have the whole week on 2 pages from Monday to Sunday. And you should write down your goals for the year. Which goals would you like to achieve in this year? And then divide these goals into sub-goals, putting in your daily schedule. So for example, I know a person who wants to have a driving license since more than 2 years, but he never transforms the idea to reality. What is missing is he doesn't have time management. So in order to have a driving license, he should check where to do the theoretical lessons, on which day would he do the practical lessons. And if he has this time schedule, then some time slot doesn't belong to him because he has to go to school or to work or to a language school. But there are time slots which belong to him. And in these time slots, he should then distribute when is he planning to do what. And once he uses his time schedule, then easily he will be able, or she will be able, to transform ideas into reality. So what you need, again, is a goal of the year and putting them in sub-goals within a day, within a week. And also why you need reading and writing is because then you can also think of complicated strategies. And if then context, if this happened, then I would do that. But if this happened, then I would do that. And therefore you need paper and pencil. Those of you who are Muslims, it would be also interesting to recall the fact that the very first sentence in the Quran was Iqra, read. Revealed in a time where most of the earth's population were not able to read and write. So the first commandment is not to pray or to fasten, but to read. And I would like to emphasize that reading is one of the main strategies to strengthen your brain and improve your personality. And it is also amazing to note that for 700 years, the climax of science was within the Arabic Muslim community, with pioneers like Avicenna, Averroes, El-Biruni, El-Khwarizmi. We use in Europe Arabic numbers and not Latin numbers, but only few of us know where this originates from. This originates from a mathematician pioneer living in the 9th century called Al-Khwarizmi. And from his name, the term algorithm is originated. So algorithm is like the Latin version of his name, Al-Khwarizmi. And by the way, most scientific terms which begin with AL, like algorithm, aldehyde, algebra, alchemy, aluminium, is Arabic or is from Arabic origin. Once I give this talk to children with migration background, and one child, he is born in Germany, and his father is Arabic, and his mother is from a European country. He looked at me and said, "So Arabs are not stupid?" And this sentence touched me really because it reflects his minority complex. It reflects his minority complex. Because all the people around him are living only from social money and have no positions with high reputation. And then realizing is that for 700 years the climax in science was in Arabic Islamic countries. And if you see this picture, you see in the bookshelf, in the shelf, a lot of books, and they translated everything from also from non-Muslims, from ancient Greek into Arabic, and improved this scientific knowledge by empirical research. And at the time of the Abbasidin, it was really amazing that the Abbasid Caliphate rewarded anybody who wrote a book or translated a book by giving the weight of this book as pure gold for the person who wrote the book. So if collectively people embrace science and reading, then collectively this society will rise. And also today, on an individual level, if somebody embraces reading and writing and education, then this person will also have a fantastic career. Let me give you an example. The Arabic Muslim scientist Professor Ahmed A, who got in the year 1999 the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. So he was originally from Egypt, and he finished high school and his university studies in Alexandria, and then went to USA to conduct his PhD studies. And you see in the picture in the background is his book library, and you see how much time he is spending in reading. And when you hear his talk, you see how eloquently he is talking. And this training happened especially through reading. An important statistic which I would like to give you is that we spend around 1/4 of our life in waiting. We wait in bus stations, train stations, metro, we wait at the dentist, in hospitals, we wait at governmental departments. We spend around 1/4 of our life waiting. So an 80-year-old person would spend 20 years in waiting. Now, what I would like to recommend for you is something very simple but very effective. I recommend that you always have in your bag 1 or 2 books. And every time when you're waiting, take out the book and start to read. So imagine that instead of 20 years waiting, we'll spend 20 years in reading, just by the way. But when you read, I recommend that you should do it in an active way. So have a pen or a pencil and underline specific things which you read. Contemplate about what you're reading and write down at the side your ideas, your notes. And it would be also nice if you have a folder and write down some ideas out of the books in your folder. So ideally you would go to a bookshop and you would always have 2 books which you are currently reading, a hobby book and a professional book. So everybody should be an expert in at least one topic. So if you have the vision that in Germany you would like, for example, to be a computer specialist, then this would require that you also read the latest developments in computer science. If you want to have an own shop selling something, then you should read books on economics, on selling. You should know the recent developments, the main ideas of economics and in taxes, what you could, which money could you get from the government, which amount which you can give for the taxes. Concerning myself, I'm an expert in psychotherapy and neuroscience, and therefore I spend a lot of time in reading the latest development in psychotherapy and in neuroscience. Another thing is, if you really want to improve your German language, you will never reach that if you don't start reading in German. I know people who are living here more than 10 years and they do a lot of mistakes while they are talking, and they have also a very poor expression because they know German only by hearing, but they never read the sentence or read the word, so they don't even know how to write the word correctly. So reading will improve your eloquency, your vocabulary, and by that will improve your personality and also your charisma. You will brighten your horizon and you will have much more topics which you can talk about instead of only talking, look what he is wearing, look what she is wearing, he has a better machine at home than I. You will then improve yourself and not only talk about materialistic things. What I also recommend that you would have a folder for eloquency, a folder where you collect specific nice German expressions and putting them in a sentence, so that when you read in this folder, then day by day, week by week, you will improve your German capacities. And there are also several very nice examples for successful refugees. This is a picture of a course I gave us in cooperation with the Department of Integration in the city of Reutlingen for Syrian refugees who took this course and got also a certificate. And several of them, some went got an engineering vocational training, others wanted to have an own shop, and they had really a very nice development here. Others also start to try to acknowledge their medical studies and continues to study it here and get also high reputation as physicians, for example. This is here another picture of a Syrian refugee. The square which he draws symbolizes the room in the asyl house with 6 beds in one room, and he imagines that in 5 years he will again work as an electrician, and he speaks well German, and his daughter and his son goes to a German school. What is also intriguing is that especially in Germans have specific empathy and understand very well what it means to be a war refugee, because Germany itself was completely destroyed in the Second World War. And a lot of Germans have also experiences in escaping from one country to another country to save their lives. There are the so-called Hungarian Germans who also escaped from Hungary, and in their lifelines they draw the trains full of people, and this, they said, was the worst moment in their life, where they are escaping and are afraid of the bombs coming down on the cities where they just were. So as the Syrian refugees drawing the boats at the most traumatic moment, a lot of them draw the full trains escaping from Hungary into other countries. And although Germany was completely destroyed in the Second World War, Germans built Germany back again, but did not replace every building. There's one building which they let as it was, and it is this church in Berlin, in Kudamm, called in German die Gedächtniskirche, the memory church. Symbolizing or putting back again into memory that Germany was completely destroyed in the Second World War, and that racistic, fascist thinking can destroy a complete nation. Nevertheless, Germans did not stick to this role of a victim, and already in the 1960s, only, let's say, 1.5 decades later, Germany became again one of the most powerful economic states in the world, and maybe currently even dominating the European Union. And Germany has a very powerful position in industry, in medicine, in science, and so on. So actually I think that especially for war refugees, Germans could have a positive role model, seeing what Germans achieved in few years, although the country was completely destroyed. What is also, as I said, important is that as a war refugee, for sure you experience a lot of very severe situations. Some of you might have experienced insult, some might even experience torture. But the point is, if you would spend a lot of time during the day remembering the negative things which happened to you, then this kind of thinking will stop your brain producing serotonin, and you are in danger in developing depression. Instead, you should stop transferring previous negative experiences into the present, and don't spend most of the day in this kind of thoughts, and instead write the problems which you have, and then think systematically how could be the solution, or how could the solutions look like. Especially when you want to sleep, several patients tell me that in bed they start to contemplate, to think about sad or bad things happened in the past. Instead of that, you should change the focus of your attention. To change the focus of attention on positive things. For example, this could be positive things which happen in the past or could happen in the future. So imagine that in future we'll go to a wonderful island on the sea, and you're on the beach, and so you close your eyes and then you imagine this beach, how it looks like, the ocean, how it looks like. You can imagine who is accompanying you, or maybe that you are learning somebody, that you get to know somebody in this imagination. Imagine how the sand feels like below your legs or below or under your hand, how the sun feels like, you're going swimming, whatever. So once you imagine this beautiful surrounding, then it would lead to the sympathicus really going down, the parasympathetic activated, and you can sleep in a wonderful way. But if you think of problems, then this would lead to negative emotions, and both would activate the sympathicus, and then your body is prepared to fight or to flight, but not to sleep. Another strategy would be that you try to remember in the past something nice, funny happened to you, and imagine the details of it. Again, this kind of thinking, positive thinking, would be associated with positive emotions, and both will let also the sympathicus go down and the parasympathicus get activated. So I don't say never think of problems, but decide when is it plausible to think of problems and when not. And when you want to eat, it is not plausible, and also when you want to sleep. What's also important is there are several sleep stages. And during an 8-hour sleep period, you dream around 4 times. This is in purple. During the so-called Rem sleep. Rem stands for rapid eye movement, because in this period your eyes are rapidly moving. In red, you see the stage 4, where you are in deep sleep. And during the first third of the night, you are in the deep sleep stage, and further on, the deep stage is always less, and then you have more REM sleep. What's also important is healthy sleeping. So it is not arbitrary when you go to bed, and it's also not arbitrary when you have 8 hours sleep. Some people say it is only important that I have 8 hours, but it doesn't matter when I have them. No, it does matter. The golden time period is between 10 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock in the morning. So the latest you should go in bed like around midnight, so that you get 6 hours this time period. If you go later in bed, then you will not go into the deep stage, but you will have more REM phase and more disturbing dreams or even nightmares. Here you see the EEG frequency of your brain during the different sleep stages. In the upper line, you see the EEG frequency when you are awake. When you are awake, you have beta waves in your brain, and beta waves have a frequency of 13 to 30 hertz. 30 hertz means that you have in 1 second 30 waves. So this is really very fast frequency. 30 waves in 1 second. This is the highest line when you are awake. When you close your eyes, then you have more alpha activity with a frequency between 8 and 13 hertz. And then the deeper you go into sleep, then the frequency gets slower and slower, and the amplitude gets larger and larger. And in deep stage, this is stage 4, then you have delta activity with a frequency of 0.1 to 4 hertz. That means in 1 second you have, 0.1 means that in 10 seconds you have only 1 wave in 10 seconds. So you have really very slow brain activity, or very slow frequency. In order to reach this delta phase, it is important, as I said, the time point when you go into bed, and also it is important that it is complete, that in the room where you're sleeping is complete darkness, because light activates neurons in your brain and prevents you in entering this deep stage of sleeping. Therefore, you should not sleep in front of television or in front of your laptop or your mobile phone, because this light stimuli prevents your brain entering this deep stage of sleeping. Instead, you should really close the curtains so that you will have complete darkness in your room. If this is not possible, then you could buy something which covers your eyes so that you have on your eyes complete darkness. Right, so as I said, you can overcome depression, first of all, by controlling your thoughts, and especially when you want to sleep, you should be aware what are you thinking of, because negative thoughts will be associated with negative emotions, and both with neurophysiological processes which will activate your body. Your blood pressure will arise and your muscles will get tension, and you are not able then to sleep. So let's come to the conclusions. As I said, you have three major forces in human psychology: thoughts, behavior, and emotions. And we cannot change negative emotions directly, but indirectly by changing negative thoughts into positive ones, or changing negative behavior into positive behavior. And it's also crucial to be aware of your mimic and your body language. So changing negative body language and mimic to positive one will also affect your emotions. Then don't ruminate most of the day of problems which happened in the past or could happen in the future, but instead take a piece of paper and write your current problems and write systematically your solution strategies. And instead of wasting most time when you are waiting with WhatsApp or Facebook or internet, it would be great if you develop reading as a hobby of yours, and by doing that you can then improve your language and your expertise and your personality. And last but not least, be aware of healthy sleeping, because this will give you then energy to work in a proper way, and be aware when you go to sleep and that you would have complete darkness while sleeping. And when you are in bed, don't start to contemplate about problems, but do that during the day in a systematic way. Finally, I would like to thank my colleagues who supported me in developing this podcast series. And most of all, I would like to thank the Department of Integration and Gender Equality of the city of Reutlingen, who supported this project. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.